Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Jocelyn Bamford, and every week we introduce a new entrepreneur or expert in the economy to tell their stories and unpack the challenges of keeping jobs in Canada, as well as discuss potential solutions for job growth and prosperity. Today on the program, we're going to talk about the subject that has been blowing up social media for the past few weeks, and that is CEOs behaving badly, as we unpack the so-called Coldplay CEO incident with astronomer CEO Andy Byron and his head of human resources, Kristen Cabot. Joining me to discuss is Mario Zelaya, former banker, entrepreneur, and social media influencer. You may know him as Mario for the North on his social media platforms. Mario is also CEO of Durafilm. Durafilm taps into rising crime rates, which have placed a spotlight on often overlooked vulnerabilities, which is windows. Recent studies indicate that nearly a third of all burglaries occur through windows, making them a frequent target for intruders. Durafilm is dedicated to transforming these weak spots into formidable barriers. Welcome to the program, Mario.
Thank you very much for having me on, Jocelyn. I appreciate it.
Oh, before we talk into this hot topic, Mario, tell us a bit about your career. I know you've had an amazing journey.
Yeah, so I came to Canada when I was 5 years old. I came from El Salvador. At the time, it was obviously a very war-torn country, a lot of conflict, and so my first home in Canada was actually a shelter home. And we grew up very poor. My parents worked blue collar jobs for most of their lives in Canada. My dad almost his whole adult life in Canada. So I've been here for close to 40 years now. I obviously I only see myself as Canadian. I've only ever known Canada, both from my childhood and to my adulthood. And yeah, I worked really hard. I worked, in high school. I had I think two, three part-time jobs, and I worked almost 40 hours a week while still being, in grade 12 and back when OAC existed. And so I paid my way through college. Worked really hard, and I took more of a brute force approach to work where I just worked hours and I had no problem putting in the work. And eventually I launched a digital marketing and a technology company. And when I started, I was working about 100 hours a week. It was very tough, very difficult. That company got acquired by a private equity firm. I joined them as the head of mergers and acquisitions. And then at the same time, I started a very popular company called Bad Axe Throwing. And that really revolutionized the concept of axe throwing, and that made it into a household name. And part of that journey was starting another company called the World Axe Throwing League and the World Knife Throwing League. So if anyone's ever seen axe throwing or knife throwing on TV, whether it's on ESPN or TSN, that's also one of my companies. And so it's been a great journey. And so, fast forward to today, I have about a dozen companies. Durafilm is one of them. And, my goal for with Durafilm is to literally just keep Canadians safe with the growing crime rates, with the catch and release laws that we have. We need to have some sort of deterrent so criminals aren't breaking in through our patio glass sliding doors. They're not, using a hammer to break into our home, break the glass, and stick their hand in. So the idea is to fortify people's homes and keep Canadians safe.
Amazing. And I am going to talk to you about my door when we conclude this. You have been a banker, an entrepreneur. You really have lived the Canadian dream. And now you're a social influencer. Tell me, which are you most proud of?
I would probably say, of all the companies, it's not necessarily the size, it's not the revenue, it's more the impact. And I would say the World Axe Throwing League probably has had the most impact. The amount of people that have been married, had kids, we're talking about tens of thousands of throwers where you have to manage their expectations. And honestly, people don't realize it's a bit of a political role being the commissioner and the founder of the World Axe Throwing League because you're determining rules. I'm seeing what's best for the community. I'm setting expectations of, what do we expect from our professional athletes? How should they behave? How should they conduct themselves? Having a social media code of conduct, having a player code of conduct. Like these are things that you would expect at the highest level of professional sports, which we've implemented for the World Axe Throwing League. And so, from an impactful standpoint, the number of lives that have been changed, both from entrepreneurs starting their own businesses and otherwise, just even becoming friends, forging new friendships, and creating this community from scratch. I would say that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of.
Well, it's definitely an interesting entrepreneur journey. We're going to take a quick break, and when we are back, we're going to discuss the topic that's been hot on everyone's lips, and that's CEO behaving badly. You don't want to miss this.